Hello, this is Molly Stout, and this is my presentation on my plan of instruction based on my literary inquiry. My inquiry question is, how can I support my second grade students in recognizing their own miscues while reading aloud? I chose this question because it always is in the back of my head when I'm reading with my students, and I think to myself, how can my students recognize the miscues that they make, attend to them, fix them with fix-up strategies, instead of just dismissing them and relying on the teacher for all of the prompting. I'd like them to be as independent as possible during the reading process. I used 2 research articles for my studies. The first one was A Miscue Analysis, A Glimpse into the Reading Process by Chi Muhammad. The next one was an analysis of one teacher's response to student miscues by Ann Pritchard. That was actually a dissertation. And here's my findings from the research article, A Miscue Analysis. The purpose in this research study is to examine an average student's ability in oral reading, recognizing the types of miscues students can make, and seeing how that can possibly interfere with their reading. Researchers had given a miscue analysis. It's an in-depth procedure developed by Goodman to see if the miscues hindered the participants' overall understanding of the passage that they read aloud, and to see if the miscues affected their learning or not. The subjects were 6 average students from the Malay race, and they come from all different backgrounds of socioeconomic status. The methodology is as follows. All of the participants read from the passage Fair's Fair by Narinder Dhami, and researchers marked the students' errors during the reading process. If they made any miscues, the researchers were looking for patterns of miscues that they were making. A coding system was created to organize the miscues into many patterns, including substitution, omission, insertion, repetition, hesitation, and self-correction. They wanted to track the errors that were made and studied the miscue patterns to see how they affected the students' reading process. The findings are as follows. Results show that all of the participants acquired more strengths than weaknesses during the reading. In regards to the substitution miscues, some of them were not considered weaknesses and were actually considered strengths. This is because the word that they said may have looked or sounded similar to the word. The substitution did not change the sentence structure, and it did not change the meaning of the text, and it was acceptable to the cueing system rules. For my plan of instruction, I'm going to tell you the context and purpose, goals, and objectives. I teach second grade. I teach in an in-class support setting inclusion classroom. I'm the in-class support teacher. I will have a small group for my guided reading group instruction. There are 18 students total, 6 of whom who have disabilities, 3 which receive ELA and math instruction in a resource room setting, getting that extra individualized attention. The rest of the 3 of them are mine, on my caseload, receiving instruction in an in-class support setting. The purpose of this fluency lesson was for students to start recognizing their own miscues while reading aloud. They continue to track their reading as they read aloud. The goals are, students will become more aware of their mistakes when reading. Students will apply fix-up strategies to their reading and try to correct themselves accurately as they read. You'll see that further on in my lesson and what tools I have. The objectives are, the student will be able to read a text at their instructional level with purpose and understanding. The student will be able to read a text at their instructional level orally with accuracy, appropriate rate, and expression on successive readings. We're always working on this. The student will be able to use context to confirm or self-correct word recognition and understanding, rereading as necessary. Okay, here's my narrative description of my instruction. This is during our ELA block. We use the Journeys Literacy Program for our ELA instruction. We are on Lesson 8. The theme is winter, and that is centered around our anchor text as well. I work with another teacher in the classroom. She's the general education teacher. I'm the special ed teacher. She is pulling a guided reading group. They're also focusing on main ideas and details as the comprehension strategy. The text is What is the Wind by Eric Barnveld. Other students are working on Corclix, which is an educational digital non-fiction reading program that they really enjoy working on their own Chromebooks. It is more individualized. They have a certain text of their choice that they can choose from, and they're working on main ideas and details as well. Okay, so my description of instruction. I'm having a guided reading group of my 3 students who all have disabilities ranging from learning disabilities to ADHD. For before reading, I would like my students to become familiar with themselves as readers at my table. It always looks a little bit different rather than them just sitting at their desks individually reading. So I want to set them up for success. I let them read through a short, familiar text that they have already read as a review to get them ready for my instruction. I quickly review sight words and pre-teach vocabulary, so words that they may be seeing in the text. I set the purpose for reading. Students have reading goals that they have chosen, which were pre-approved by me, and they will be working on those goals in the guided reading group time that we're together. I model their reading goal with a mentor text to show what good readers do. The text I used was The Salamander Room by Anne Mazer, and the example reading goal for one of my students was making a mental image in their head to help with them understanding with what they read. So that's what I was trying to model. I introduced the fictional text, and I wanted to see what the student's background knowledge was. The text is Looking for Luke by Marianne Dobeck. I wanted to know all about what they know on the topic of getting lost, so we kind of took a picture walk through the text, we looked at the title, and then we started to make predictions of what we think the title was about and what we're going to be reading about. Okay, so during reading, I reminded my students to whisper read to themselves as I called on individual students to read aloud to me. And at that time, I took a running record of their oral reading. This is where I really enjoyed reading that research article that I have. This is where I took a lot of information from, so I wanted to make sure that I was using the cueing system correctly. As students came across a word that they did not recognize, I encouraged them to decode on their own. This brings me to my special friends that I use, my reading buddies. They are stuffed animals that help remind students of fix-up strategies. For example, one of them is a little snake, and I like to call him Sally the Snake to remember to slow down in the reading because snakes are slow. Little ways to help students remember what to do when they're reading and when they come across a word that they don't know. And of course, I provided modeling to my student on how to use the strategy that they're working on. After reading, I go back to the text with my students and show them one rule that good readers follow. The fluency strategy that I also showed was stopping at punctuation marks, such as the end of sentences, and show them that that's how good readers sound. And I allowed the students to practice. My follow-up activity was students choosing a book of interest at their level from their bag of books and apply fix-up strategies to unknown words as they read. For my reflection, what I have learned so far, I'm always encouraging students to use fix-up strategies that work best for them. If a student can decode with one specific strategy, I allow them to use that one as much as they need to. It's all about students gaining confidence in this time, and I want them to feel comfortable with what they're using. By understanding the pattern of a student's amount of miscues, teachers are better equipped to plan effective instruction that will help students improve their oral reading abilities. If a pattern of miscues were not noted, how could I, as a teacher, know what areas to work on with the students and their reading abilities? So that's also something I learned and really took away from with the research article. I still have one question that I think about based on my inquiry. What happens if a student keeps making the same mistake over and over? If it is a sight word, do I provide them more practice on that word in different modalities? If the unknown word is a vocabulary word, do I provide more practice and exposure to the vocabulary word? So I want to make sure that I give the student as much exposure as possible to help them make less miscues as possible, always hoping to improve their understanding of the text. And this is my presentation on my plan of instruction on my inquiry question. Thank you.